From 6-time Super Bowl, 3-time MVP, 14-time Pro Bowler Tom Brady, to established Texas Longhorn Colt McCoy, I'm here to rank the quarterbacks entering the 2019 season, their starting position, and where they fall basically on the top 15 for the most part. It's always a tough list. Before we get into it, I'd like to just show. If you enjoy the content, please follow my YouTube page. Let's Talk Goats podcast. It's got a mix of video games, podcasts, older videos from before. And then follow me on Twitter. Let's Talk Goats at Tech Squad 23. Same thing. Gonna be posting hopefully articles from other people, sport updates, videos, highlights, and pretty much any other content I have. And if interested in the future, working on getting merch running. This is for got t-shirts up and hats. So, jump back to the podcast here. Tough decision, tough choices. It's always impossible to get a perfect list of this, in my opinion. Ranking your quarterbacks, there's a lot of factors you have to take. Careers, how they did last year, who you hate, where you're going to put that person you hate always takes a factor in. This started pretty much with actually at work, and somebody was arguing that Phillip Rivers doesn't belong in the top 10. This pretty much snowballed us into let's see what their list looks like. After giving a list and having a lot of conversations, if those who do know me, I debate and have a lot of sport conversations, a lot of fantasy input, and I can talk about it all day. So I like to go over my list, what I have. This is after talking to multiple people, having a lot of arguments and taking a lot of things into consideration. And it actually changed my current list of what the list I had before. So for the first, I believe the first 15, which is really the main goal here, got some current stats, why I put them there. And obviously there's about 4 key players I'd like to talk about in my top 15. 16 down is, really where I think they should stand overall. Now, keep an open mind here. We have to take in consideration their past history, their season they just came off of, and where they currently fit. Big thing to keep in mind is this is not based off of just last year's stats. If we were to do a list like that, your list would look completely out of whack, putting Andrew Luck, Pat Mahomes, Goff, Baker high up, and taking people like Eli Manning completely out, Aaron Rodgers completely out, and compared to Tom Brady's, number 1 spot, he's going to fall low because his season last year was underperformed, regardless of the Super Bowl ring or not. So keep in mind, this is our active starting positions of each team going into this season. How are they going to look? So please follow, like on YouTube. Leave me a list of what you think your top is. If you want to, discuss or argue against something, more than likely, gonna comment back and have a conversation about it. Please give me your list. I want to know why this person should be swapped with this person. So let's jump into it. Obviously, her number 1 quarterback going next season is going to be Tom Brady. Now we're talking Tom Brady, 1 system QB. Same as we know, Brady Belichick era. I mean, I don't know who can argue that Tom Brady's not only the best active, but the best quarterback to ever play. 6 Super Bowls, 3 MVPs, 14-time Pro Bowler. Now, a big conversation they have a lot is, Tom Brady is a system guy. He has worked with multiple different teams, although he's thrown the ball to Sony Michel versus throwing it to Corey Dillon. I mean, the guys had Randy Moss on the team. He's also thrown to lacrosse players last year, being fucking what's his face? See, I don't even remember the names. As we all know, their quarterback core or their wide receiver core in general is just absolutely terrible. Now that Gronk is gone, I don't think they're going to see a fall off in terms of the greatness of him starting in. But as we all know, he's 41 years old. We're looking at 1 to 2 more years, and as everybody either loves or hates him, in my opinion, he does have a replacement, which is where I have number 5. Number 2, Drew Brees, 40 years old, 1 Super Bowl, 12 Pro Bowler. Everybody always puts the top 3. It's Brady, Brees, or Rodgers. That's it. Anybody, I don't think I've heard anyone else mixing into the top 3 in the past few years, aside from when Peyton Manning retired. Obviously, he is out. So Drew Brees, I mean, this is another guy you got to always respect when one quarterback is with the same team over and over and over. I mean, the guys had different weapons, and especially the Saints. We're not talking about too much greatness coming out of there. Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara, that was our good 1-2 punch for those 2 years. Now that Mark Ingram's gone, everything's going to fall on Kamara, but that's a great weapon for him. And Michael Thomas is also like just a complete and utter stud, as we all know. Completions, and everybody had him for fantasy last year. He was great. But let's think about before that. Like, this guy did it with weapons that weren't amazing. You always have to go back and think about stuff like that. Number 3, you got Aaron Rodgers. 35 years old, which is actually surprising. I thought he was younger in terms of like 33, 32, but he has been in the league for a decent amount of time. 1 Super Bowl, 2 MVPs, which is very impressive, and 7 Pro Bowls. So Aaron Rodgers, I don't believe deserves to be in that 2 spot as our greatest entering. He's coming off an injury, so that obviously affects how he goes in this next year. When I watched him last year, I'm not the biggest fan of Aaron Rodgers because I don't think he puts his absolute effort into it like he needs to. Last year, I watched him make a lot of passes without taking the step. And I think like if he can correct that and take advantage of his weapons he has, this might be entering the 2019 season. This might be his best chance to win another Super Bowl before he retires. I mean, you never know what the Green Bay Packers are going to do, but they're always going to fall in the middle of the pack. The draft picks aren't going to be too great. And having Aaron Jones as your running back right now, which that's a weapon. And Devontae Adams, which is currently ranked number 1 wide receiver, right in front of DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, these are weapons you're not going to have in the future. And I mean, as we all know, those 2 positions are wheedled out pretty quick due to injuries. Randall Cobb's on his way out, so I think he can have a very good season entering 2019. 4th, my least favorite quarterback in the whole league, Big Ben. Me being a Chiefs fan and a Pats fan, I just fucking hate him. Man, I hate the Steelers, God. But you gotta respect him. 37 years old, 2 Super Bowls, 6-time Pro Bowler. Now, Big Ben's obviously had the weapons of Antonio Brown, as we all have known. And now has Juju Smith, Le'Veon Bell, James Conner. I mean, the guy's always had weapons around him. He's always made the plays. But the only thing that gets me with him is he's had a lot of seasons where he's just underperformed. I mean, the guy was close to retiring two seasons ago, something like that. So that's always a difficult one. But you got to respect the stats. There's not too many veterans, like, I think, left in the entire thing. After going through the list and talking about all the quarterbacks, we're about 10 people, 10 or under out of the 31 that are veteran QBs from probably like about my age growing up that are all the same. So to think about that is actually pretty crazy. Like, the new age of quarterbacks are really here, and they've been here. I did a list myself of freshman to senior years, your 1 through 4 years, and who's on your 4th year. Once you hit your 5th year as a quarterback, you're really entering the prime time, where you really are established and where you can go on. And it's just insane when I did that list to think about the amount of veteran QBs we have. And to go on to the veteran QBs, my number 5th is the complete opposite, actually, Patrick Mahomes. So Patrick Mahomes is 23 years old. He's got 1 MVP, as we all know from last year. And the big stat for me is he threw 50 touchdowns, 5,381 yards. That's insane. When comparing it to other stats, he threw something that people do in 2 seasons for the most part in one season. As we all know, Showtime Mahomes last year sat behind Alex Smith, really just learned the organization. And with weapons like Tyreek Hill, it's hard not to just throw it down and then just get these amazing catches. But Patrick Mahomes in my opinion, is the next coming of the great. I mean, I don't see how he plays out of the pocket like Russell Wilson, which is good and bad. Bad for the reason that if you get hit out of the pocket, you have a higher chance of obviously getting hurt. And with their offensive line being so-so, it looks like he's going to be playing out of the pocket some more this year. But Patrick Mahomes is an absolute stud, and what we're seeing is great. And although we only have 1 season to base it off of, I don't see how we can put him under any of the next 10 players, in my opinion, when you're sitting there comparing. But I do think that when we're done with the next season, we're going to see the exact same results, regardless of what's going on with the Tyreek Hill situation or not. The guy still has other weapons. The guy still makes plays. He still will get there. We got to keep in mind that he still has Kelsey. He still has Sammy Watkins. And Damian Williams can catch the ball, believe it or not, and he can move his ass. So I think Patrick Mahomes is going to have another great season. And when you look at these ages of the top 5, 41, 40, 35, 37, 23. 23 years old. He's got nothing but time. And he's going to look real good. Number 6, probably one of the best out-of-pocket passer or quarterbacks we can get, Russell Wilson. Super Bowl, 1 Super Bowl ring, 5-time Pro Bowler. Big thing with Russell Wilson is I have a lot of respect for him because look at the team he's got. I mean, he went through having the Legion of Boom and then it being erased and then still consistently playing well. Only 2 seasons of the last about 7 years he's underperformed. But for some reason, when Russell Wilson hits mid-season, the guy literally takes off. So anybody who knows him as a fan, anybody who owns him in fantasy, always knows if you're struggling with him for a week, you're going to go in the next week, he's going to catch on fire. And when on fire, Russell Wilson does not back down. Russell Wilson, in my opinion, is just falling out of the top 5 due to Patrick Mahomes being Patrick Mahomes. The argument you could have is, are we basing it off of 1 year? Or are we basing it off of more than 1 year? What's going on here? Oh, okay. A little issue there. Next up, probably the most underrated quarterback in the entire league, Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's got MVP on his belt. He's another system quarterback. He's got weapons: Julio Jones, Sue, Gabriel. The guy's played with players, and he's got great running backs. He's part of a great organization, and he's always done consistent. Matt Ryan has been in the league for 10 years now, which is insane to think about because when he was drafted with Joe Flacco, that didn't seem like an eternity ago, but it was. I mean, we're talking a veteran QB, and he is, in my opinion, not one of the So you have the old Tom Brady's, the Drew Brees, the Big Bens, and then you have the middle of the pack, the 33-year-olds, 30 to 34, 33-year-olds. Those are the people that just kind of snuck up on us as the veteran quarterbacks, like Matthew Stafford. I mean, those are people that are like Joe Flacco. They're in the same age group, and it's crazy to think about that. Those are going to become the older quarterbacks soon. Matt Ryan is where I put 7. The biggest argument I came across was putting Phillip Rivers in the top 10. I have him at 8. I do believe that Phillip Rivers, as we all saw last season, looked good. I mean, he's got weapons. He plays the ball well. Plays in the pocket. He has a great offensive line. His team last year was fantastic. The big problem that people have is he has no Super Bowls. He doesn't perform well in playoffs. So how do you put him above other people that do? Phillip Rivers is an 8-time Pro Bowler, and he's thrown for 54,000 yards, 656. Phillip Rivers is a stud. The guy can throw. The guy has very smart plays. He is a clock management quarterback. If we're going to look at all clock management quarterbacks, there's not too many, but the ones that are very successful. Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, Alex Smith. Some people who are established as good time clock management quarterbacks. Phillip Rivers can throw. He can sling that ball real well, as we all know. Phillip Rivers is also in that higher age group. He'll be looking to retire in 2 to 3 years, and someone will take over. But you can't consider him just because he doesn't have a ring to not be as good as somebody like Cam Newton, Stratford, Cousins, Jimmy G. I mean, these are players that have the same type of issues, and it just doesn't make sense. I mean, this is another one-team quarterback, not a quarterback that went from here to there and traveled around. Number 9, Andrew Luck. The second biggest argument. Andrew Luck, 4-time Pro Bowler, 2018 Comeback Player of the Year, and he's only thrown for 23,671. He came out of his season. I believe he's in his 6th season right now. Andrew Luck came out his first 3 seasons looking like the greatest quarterback to come out. He was supposed to be the one to take over the number 1 spot. It's before Rodgers really blew up. This is supposed to be the replacement of Brady. And he was supposed to just compete really with Rodgers for that number 1 spot. Andrew Luck came out and he took his Colts from the first 3 seasons, I believe, from 11. I think they went like 11-3 or 11-4 or something like that. Consistently, 3 seasons in a row. And then the injuries started happening. So he missed 2 full seasons. Andrew Luck, 2 full seasons of his career due to injuries. Comes back last year. And as all fantasy owners know, and anybody following, looked like a goddamn fucking stud. This guy came out, threw the ball, had weapons, defensive weapons, and offensive, being Quentin Nelson. The offensive line for this guy was amazing. Leonard, Defensive Player of the Year, amazing. Let's keep in mind, he is still throwing to T.Y. Hilton, who is getting up there in age. He's obviously nothing like he used to be. But to have the Luck and T.Y. connection and the T.Y. Luck combo is still doing it for him. That's fantastic. Marlon Mack, he's going to do very well this season. In my opinion, if we're looking at last year's, just based off last year's stats, he's second for me, right under Pat Mahomes. Next year, going into that, I guarantee he's going to be higher. I think going into next year, we're going to look at him moving on multiple leaderboards as back to the old Andrew Luck. Now, he came off of his injured season and played last year, which means at some point he's feeling the same pain. There's no way. You don't take a break like that and then come back and play that way and not feel the pain. And he still performed. This guy looked amazing, MVP talks and whatnot. So, Andrew Luck is my 9. And to have him any higher would raise the argument of, how do you put somebody that's only played 4 seasons and performed the way he did over certain people like Phillip Rivers, Matt Ryan, Russell Wilson, even Pat Mahomes you can have the argument with, going 1 year over 4 years. Number 10. Now, my top 10 was pretty tough to fit through. 10 through 15 was also a little more difficult. In my opinion, when you're doing a list like this, the middle of the pack is always the most questionable thing, because you have to take in consideration that all of these people are not your, standout studs. We're talking really looking at weird stats, looking at how they're going to do, how they're performed through the past, how they're looking into going next year. And a lot of these middle of the pack people are our sophomore players, junior players, even our senior players. Number 10 and 11 was real tough for me. 10, I have Cam Newton. 1-time MVP, Rookie of the Year, 4-time Pro Bowler. I'm a big Cam Newton fan. My only really issue with Cam Newton is the Super Bowl that he played. He chose not to dive on a ball, if anybody remembers. Chose not to dive on a ball to risk an injury. Gave him that ball, gave him a chance of potentially getting back in the game. Instead, he opted not to dive and watched the ball go to the other team, being the Broncos. And after that, it really just didn't sit too well with me. Cam Newton has also battled multiple injuries, but he's also put up a lot of good stats. Cam Newton is right there with the whole Russell Wilson playing out of pocket. Came out of the Auburn looking phenomenal. And he's just that type of player. He's got a lot of weapons coming into this current season, being Christian McCaffrey, who's an absolute stud. But the problem is he has no one to throw to. Greg Olson's about, 38 years old, constantly injured, or 36 in that range. And all he has is DJ Moore. I think he had Calvin Benjamin, and he went to Buffalo and got fat. So that's not a bad deal for them. But realistically, for Cam Newton to increase, you got to put something around the guy. I don't see DJ Moore blowing up and becoming the next big thing. So I'd like to see him move up in the future, but I think these people coming up next are going to be the ones moving up due to their teams. 11, I have Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is technically a Super Bowl champion. I mean, the guy played well during his season. And then, as we know, Nick Foles came in and took over. One-time Pro Bowler. And he's thrown for over 10,000 yards in his first 3 years. My big thing with Carson Wentz, obviously, is his injuries. Back to that. So he's played a total of 13 games. And out of his 13 games, he's looked great for the most part. A few games, obviously, he played that game with the torn ACL. He was apparently injured last year. And, nobody said anything for a bit. So that didn't help anything. And then Nick Foles kind of came in, and they, as we all know, Nick Foles is now with the Jaguars. So they had to make those tough decisions of, what do we do with the organization? Everything I'm reading online, and as we all know in the sport world, it's speculations of who's the next great, who's your MVP, who we're thinking about. Carson Wentz is constantly on this list. And it makes sense. The Eagles got a great team. Their offense is there. Their defense is there. The coach is there. Quarterback is there. This is their guy. Can he stay healthy? That's the next step. If he can go a season or two without getting injured, he's going to make his way into the stardom. The top 5, great active QBs. And think in mind, if he can stay healthy for 2 years, Drew Brees, Brady, Big Ben, Phillip Rivers, those are all people that are going to retire. They need somebody entering. He is entering his senior year right now, I believe, 4 years in, which is crazy to think about because it's like he just got drafted yesterday, honestly. I mean, it really is. But this guy can play, as we all know. Good arm, everything, but it's the injuries. If Carson Wentz can control that, Carson Wentz is moving up big time. And the Eagles are going somewhere, especially with the addition of Jordan Howard. As all fantasy players know, we hate him at the moment. I had him on one team. God fucking damn it, that sucked. But different team, different scheme, different coach. Watch out for Jordan Howard this year. Guarantee you. 12th, Jared Goff. Overall number 1 pick. I believe at California. 2-time Pro Bowler. 2017, his team was 11-4. And then he brought his team from 13-3 in 2018. He's thrown for just under 10,000 yards, 9,581 yards to be exact. He had not a great first season. I believe he played behind Sam Bradford. And, was it Derek Fisher? Or, Derek Fisher. Fisher, the old quarterback for the Rams. I mean, the Rams went nowhere for a long time because of that guy. Once they kind of switched over to their current quarterback, their current head coach, the team's changed. I mean, the Rams are the weapons. Aside from the Chiefs, what other team was there to fear all season? It was the Rams and the Chiefs. Jared Goff is going to remain. He's going to be very, very good due to their team and their location. They are going to be a team that spends money, a team that puts weapons around this guy, that has great training facilities and very smart head coach. It's just he is set up for the most success in all of football, all of teams. And that's great. That's fantastic. But until Jared Goff gives me another year or two, it's hard to justify moving him. Keep in mind the biggest arguments we're going to run into is Pat Mahomes. Out of your top 10, my current top 10, fitting Pat Mahomes in there and everybody else that's played a little bit more or the same amount is under. But I don't know how, as a fan, and somebody who analyzes things, how you can watch a player constantly perform in different situations and not put him higher. Jared Goff throws the ball. Jared Goff doesn't run out of pocket. He just throws. So that is a big weapon, I think Mahomes has over Goff. I also think throwing to 3 huge receivers is phenomenal. So let's just hope that the Rams don't get a big-time tight end in the future. Because if that's the case, it's going to be a big goddamn problem because that team's looking real good. Especially when you add Eric Weddle across from Peters. I mean, I don't know how you expect to throw and not get picks. But we'll see how the team works out this year. 13, Matthew Stafford. Every time I say Stafford. Matthew Stafford. He's a tough one. He is another one, like Matt Ryan, who falls in that age group where we're going year by year, and they're not frontline, they're not big plays, they're not people making playoffs, but they are being consistent. He's a veteran. I mean, he's the guy. He's the QB for the Detroit Lions. As we all know, the Detroit Lions haven't made playoffs in a very long time. One-time Pro Bowler. He's thrown for 38,526 yards. That's impressive. Let's think about his weapons. What do you have? Calvin Johnson Jr., his maybe first 2 years, if that. Something like that. The Detroit Lions have had Golden fucking Tate and Marvin Jones Jr. only. This guy has gone through 3 different head coaches, I believe, in this time, his career. And now he has Matt Patricia, who I'm pretty biased on. I think he's phenomenal, very smart. But he's still just not perfectly set up yet. I think the Detroit Lions will be very good in 4 or 5 years when all their picks start really getting mature. They've been drafting a lot of defense the last 2 years. I think they'd be good, but will he still be there? I'm not too sure. I mean, he is going to creep up. Good thing about him is he doesn't get injured, and he's a fantasy football machine. Like Phillip Rivers, as everybody knows, those are your late picks in fantasy football that just get you there. Number 14, Deshaun Watson. One-time Pro Bowler. He's thrown for 5,864 yards. He started his season off bringing his team 3-3 before getting injured. He looked very good, although in those games, if everybody remembers those 3 losses, his first rookie season, those were close games. Those were by a play. This team could have easily went 6-0, and then he falls up to an injury. Then he comes back, and he brings his team to 13-3 last year, and is up to 9,581 yards. He's throwing to DeAndre Hopkins, and he's catching everything. He plays out of the pocket. Now, there's a high ceiling for people that play out of the pocket. There's also a low ceiling. You get injured a lot faster. You also have success like Russell Wilson, Michael Vick. These are players that I've known growing up, that these guys can play and know how to take a hit on the run. People that don't know how to take a hit on the run get injured, potentially end their career, never return the same. But Deshaun Watson's a stud. He looked amazing in Clemson. He drafted the same class as Patrick Mahomes. And for a small amount of time, I was very curious why he wasn't taken earlier overall. But he's put in a great organization, a great team, a good defense, and they are in rebuilding. If we can see him fall middle of the pack to higher going into next season, his team, they're going to go places. They're going to get the free agents they need, and they're going to play the way they need. Falls on 15. This is the tough one because this is the spot I got. Mitchell Trubisky. Now, as all players knew, or all fans know, Khalil Mack went to the Bears. It drew a lot of attention to the Bears. Just so happens Mitch Trubisky also had the attention of Bears fans previously. So everybody that wasn't a big Mitch fan really probably watched for Khalil Mack and how the defense did. About the number one defense in the league last year. Projected to go number one this year in fantasy and most leaderboards. Mitch Trubisky can throw. He's thrown for 5,416 yards. In 2017, he started his rookie career off going 4-8, which obviously isn't too great. Last year, he flipped it around and went 11-3. 11-3. You guys can name me the weapons this guy has around him. Tell me. Because if not, he's dumping the ball to Cohen. He's dumping the ball to Jordan Howard, which that didn't go too great, as we all know, last year. The defense wins Super Bowls, as we've all heard at one point in our time. The Bears are going places. Mitch Trubisky is going places. When they sign a wide receiver that can make those plays, this team is scary. If we're going to rank teams, the Bears are on the rise. They really are. This year, I have them making playoffs. Absolutely. I'm excited to see how they play. I'm excited to see what they're going to do. And let's pray again that they don't add a safety here. Mitch Trubisky can play. Run the tapes. Watch it. He's my 15. Now, I won't get too in-depth with 16-31. It's not what I needed to focus on covering. But one thing is going to be a basic list of where I'd like to put people. There's only two people probably about total here that that could move around. That being Eli Manning and Dak Prescott. So to repeat my top 15, again, please send me your top 15 of what you think. If you have something that's drastically different from mine, just write why you think it is. I'll gladly sit here and talk about it. That's literally what I like to do. Tom Brady being 1, Drew Brees being 2, Aaron Rodgers being 3, Big Ben being 4, and Patty Mahomes being 5. That's my top 5. I'll round out. 6, Russell Wilson. 7, Matt Ryan. 8, Phillip Rivers. 9, Andrew Luck. 10, Cam Newton. 11 through 15, Carson Wentz as my 11th spot. Jared Goff, 12. 13, Matthew Stafford. 14, Deshaun Watson. 15, Mitchell Trubisky. There's a lot of people that are going to be moving up. Every year we're going to get a different. The top 5 of your QB list is always going to be about the same. Your 5 spot is the only wiggle room you have. I would like to see another person put anybody else in this top 4. Because if so, I want to know why. Your only argument, really, is Pat Mahomes, Russell Wilson. Just pure one season versus a career. A lot of things to take into consideration when making a list and trying to talk about it. A lot of people are going to be moving, too. It's when you move somebody, somebody moves down. When somebody moves down, they fall out of your top 5, your top 10, your top 15. Then have to think about who are you moving down and why are you moving them down. People on the rise, Mitch, Watson, Wentz, Luck. They're going to move up. Who's moving down? And why does it make sense? Now, talk about the 16 through 31. Be pretty brief about it. It's pretty basic. This is the category between 16 and about maybe 23, 22. You can move people around, flip them back and forth. Most of them are going to move a spot. Very few of these aren't going to move any. Keep in mind, the only people on this list that are starters are not rookies. In my opinion, if you haven't played NFL snap, you don't deserve to be over somebody that has, regardless of their stats. Number 16, Kirk Cousins. Talk about Kirk Cousins real quick. Kirk Cousins is like the reincarnation of baby Phillip Rivers. I mean, the guy is a lot like him, not as NFL brain smarts due to his years, but Kirk Cousins is your run-of-the-mill vanilla guy. Very straightforward. He throws the ball, doesn't play good out of pocket, has some smarts. A lot of weapons around him right now. I think the Vikings are. I had them as a, Super Bowl pick last year with the fucking Saints getting up there too. Like those are the two teams I really thought were gonna make it, and they just were terrible. I don't know why. Dalvin Cook, Stephon Diggs. They had Rudolph. I mean, they had Thielen, who had an amazing year. So, but their defense was terrible. And their defense is fantastic in general. And then they lost weapons. So now they're really dwindling down of how they can do. 17, one of my favorite players to enter the league, Baker Mayfield. I really wanted Baker to make my top 15. If you take the year he had last year, the weapons he had, it's impressive. Anybody who watched the Browns play or Baker, which I'm going to assume a lot, because when he beat the Jets and when he tied with the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think it was week 3, who wasn't watching that? Who was not rooting for the Browns to win a game in 2 fucking years? And on top of that, this guy is a stat machine. He's got the personality that football needs. He is going to make a drastic jump. And on top of that, they add the top 3 greatest wide receivers in the last 10 years. And they put Odell in there. I mean, this guy catches everything. So you got Landry and Odell, both from the same college, keep in mind. Friends. Chemistry on opposite sides. Callaway Jr.'s there. You got Chubb. You got Kareem Hunt coming in week 11. This team's scary. And he's going to take advantage of it. 18, I got Jimmy G. Jimmy G's played about 9 games. All 9 games will look pretty fucking good. But he got injured for making a bad decision against the Chiefs, which, as we all know, should not have happened. And unfortunately lost his entire season due to that. But he's putting in a front runner in an organization that's built on draft picks that will hopefully do well this season, and if not, continue to get better and better. Remember, they got Dee Ford. They got Nick Bosa. These people are scary. Scary. I mean, the weapons they have is just keeps going. George Kittle, argument you could have with that is, number 1 to number 2 best tight end in the league, next to Kelsey. Underneath him, my least favorite quarterback, aside from Big Ben, Eli goddamn Manning. Man, he's at 19 because he's a starting quarterback with 2 Super Bowls and a somewhat impressive record. He is one of the few quarterbacks on this whole list that does amazing and then does terrible. It is back to the classic Blake Bortles theory of you play good, you play bad, you play good, you play bad, and then nobody's going to fucking notice. And as we know, they finally draft a quarterback, thank God, Daniel Jones, which that's going to go as expected of all the fans, all my fans back home. Not the biggest supporters of all that. But regardless, this guy does have track record. He can make plays. If he doesn't do anything this year, obviously we're going to see Daniel Jones taking over next year, if that doesn't already happen, and it's already planned. But it has been a long time coming, for sure. Number 20, Marcus Mariota. Marcus Mariota is extremely underrated, constantly dealing with a mediocre team, and always battling some sort of injury. All year last year, he had nerve damage in elbow. Guy couldn't throw the ball. But against the Chiefs, he definitely threw and caught his own fucking ball and scored on it. So, fuck that guy. Marcus Mariota, though, can play. He's a very good quarterback when healthy, when put in the right position. Anybody who's ever watched him, had him on fantasy, Marcus Mariota can play. 21, Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton's a tough one. Can't forget what he's done. Can't forget what he's did. What he's doing. Guy's got AJ Green around him. He's got a high interception percentage. But he's your franchise quarterback. And another guy that's really creeping up there in age on a team that doesn't have a plan. I mean, this is a team that's been in rebuild. And they've already discussed potentially taking Dwayne Haskins last year, which would have been what a move for a franchise. You'd have Joe Mixon there as a young player, and you pair him up with a young quarterback. You're going to really get some attention. And instead, they draft defense and pass up on a very good running back class. If you look into next year's quarterback class. If you look at next year's quarterback class, there are some studs. There's a lot of people that can play. But the big thing is, are these quarterbacks going to fall in the top 5? Or are they going to reach all the way down to 17, 18, 19, or 19 pick first round, like this year did? This year was lucky, and teams that passed on, I just can't wrap my brain around what they wanted and who they thought they were going to get instead. 22, Dak Prescott. Dak. Them boys. Dak Prescott arguably can be moved up higher. I mean, this is your active QB of a team that performed quite well yet last year. Let's keep in mind their offense didn't perform quite well. Their defense sure as hell did. Their defense looked very good last year. Their overall play was okay. It got by. Their defense is what got them to the playoffs. Ezekiel Elliott, as long as he stays healthy and out of trouble, is, aside from Saquon Barkley, the best running back I think we got entering the next season. But Dak is not a long ball thrower. He is what the Cowboys had. He is what got rid of Romo. He is what was healthy for the change. Is he your next 10-year quarterback? I don't think so. And I think if they sign him to something like that, you might be in trouble. If we don't see something big out of him the next 2 years, a year, in my opinion, but 2 years for being nice, we're not going to see any sort of improvement out of the Cowboys. And when you don't see an improvement to a quarterback within 4 to 5 years, when you're out of your senior year as a quarterback, you're not performing, you're in trouble. Your franchise is in trouble. You're not going to excel. You're going to create some sort of, status quo of what you can and can't do. And then that's just what it is. 23, Sam Darnold. Great team around him. I think he can definitely perform. His team's getting better and better. Le'Veon Bell. He just needs some more weapons to throw to. Robbie Anderson can't catch everything. On top of that, he's young. He gets in trouble. He's another one where you need that Eric Decker type guy, Now, 24-31, that's a rough one. Go through this real quick. 24, Nick Foles. Granted, he has one Super Bowl. Look at his career. This guy's a backup that underperformed. And when made a starter, he did not do well. For some reason in Philly, he did do well. If he stayed in Philly and they passed on Carson Wentz type situation, he can make himself something if he keeps performing the way he did. But look back into Nick Foles before the Super Bowl and tell me where you would want to put him. He's a backup. He's a backup that got placed on a very good team that made some good throws. That's his job. He did it. I don't think he deserves to be too much higher. Granted, you can put him over people like Sam Darnold, maybe. And you can even put him over Jimmy G for the amount of time he's played. But for the most part, he's in the area. 25, Derek Carr. 26, Joe Flacco. 27, Josh Allen. 28, Jameis Winston. 29, Lamar Jackson. 30, Josh Rosen. And 31, Colt McCoy. Keep in mind, these are our active starting 2019 quarterbacks. Things could change. I think you got Kyler Murray coming in. He should most likely be the starter, if not the starter already. Which I don't know where I got him, but Doesn't matter. He hasn't played a snap. You got Dwayne Haskins, who's most likely taking over the position of the Redskins due to Alex Smith's broken leg, Colt McCoy's broken leg, and Joe Flacco will, as of right now, is their starter of the Broncos, which I think will be replaced with probably the best quarterback in the whole draft, Drew Lock. Kid has a cannon. So I do think we're going to see a lot of difference there. So that is the QB rank list I have going in the 2019 season. Keep in mind, once again, this is not based off of solely last year's stats. This is not an all-time list. This is active starting quarterbacks going into next season. Again, please let me know what you think. Give me your list. Let me know what we're looking like. Fantasy is coming up. I'll gladly discuss anything related to that, and these lists do benefit that. All right. For that, I'll say thank you for listening. Please follow me on Twitter. Check me on YouTube. Be doing a video about once a week to start off. And let me know how you'll enjoy the quality and content. Thank you.